This show contains profanity, advice you should never follow, humor that you might not enjoy. The names have been changed to protect the guilty. Do not try this at home.
Greetings, yellow blazers, blue blazers, Bill Bryson lovers, Bill Bryson haters, purists. Welcome to the Pox and Puss podcast, a proud member of the award-winning Appalachian Trails Network. My name is Pox Holiday, and sitting 4.5 hours to my east is Puss in Boots. This week we've got a doozy for you. We missed a week because, well, we weren't really happy with the episode we were going to put out last week. So, instead of that, as fate would have it, I got a phone call from a certain person that many of you probably know, or at least have heard of, on our show and possibly the Trail Show. Here, I'll give you a little hint.
You can't go back to a little staff once you've had a bigger staff.
That's right. On this week's episode of the Pox and Puss podcast, we have the one and only Gordan Biggerstaff. Maybe you know him as the Oracle. Maybe you know him as Celtic. We've been trying to hook up since day one of him getting into the country. Unfortunately, we'd miss each other. Literally, he got to Trail Days as we were leaving, so we never got to meet. But he's back in Tennessee, hanging out with a friend. We were lucky enough that the Friends of the Smokies office in Sevierville, Tennessee, let us just use one of their offices for a little over an hour to do the interview, and they were so nice. They were such a great group of people, and they had big pictures of Heath Schuler all around, too. I'll get the business out of the way. Do us a favor. Go visit us at AppalachianTrails.com. At the very bottom, you'll see the portal for Pox and Puss podcast. Find us on Facebook, and then like us on Facebook. Just look for Pox and Puss podcast. If you'd like to follow us on Twitter, we are at Pox and Puss. We're also at Pox and Puss on Instagram. I am at Pox Holiday, all one word there. And Puss in Boots is at @PussInBoots. You can email us at poxandpuss@gmail.com, or you can just email me, poxholiday@gmail.com. Also, visit our Etsy site. You can search for Pox and Puss in Etsy, or you can look for Dino Chase. It's our signature t-shirt, hand screen printed by Miss Puss in Boots herself. Another thing that really, really, really helps out is if you visit iTunes and give us a 5-star review. Even if you give us a bad review and give it 5 stars, we'll read it. I promise. Also, what really helps out is if you subscribe to us on iTunes. That's what helps us rocket to the top of the charts. Okay, I'm going to shut up now. Obviously, I've had a lot of coffee. Okay, here's Mr. Gordan Biggerstaff. The first page of your blog.
Yeah.
The very first thing I associate, well, I can empathize with, because I also have been a second and third shift worker, and have found, even with my job that I have now, I find solace with my iPod. And it really struck me at the very beginning. And do you mind explaining the moment you knew you were going to do something like hike the Appalachian Trail?
I worked the weekends, and I'd put audiobook on, and I downloaded Bill Bryson's trail, his book on the trail, and I listened to that over about 3 nights. And then the following weekend I was again back at work, but I was listening to music this time, and it suddenly struck me that I'd spent the weekend listening to about a guy hiking the trail who never hiked the trail.
Right.
And it was like, God, that was waste of time. Anyway, didn't think much more of it, carried on filling the freezers, and about 5 minutes later I thought, I'm going to go and hike it. I'm going to do that. Yeah. So I then sent text messages out to everybody who I normally go hiking with, saying, I'm going to do this. Do you want to come? And a couple of them said yes. And then next morning when I phoned them just to go over the details, they'd all changed their minds. And, no. But I thought, no, I'm going to go and do it. And but that was really the moment. I knew I'm going to go and do the AT, and I'm going to hike all of it.
What was your actual start date, Gordan?
My actual start date was, I was on Springer Mountain 21st of March I didn't start actually hiking till the morning 22nd.
Oh, okay.
So,
And did you get a trail name?
I've had a few. Because my name's Gordan, everybody was like, "Oh well, you're Flash," and I was like, "No, I'm not being Flash." I vetoed that one. So eventually, the guy said, "Well, you can be the Celtic Flash." I was like, "Okay, we'll settle for that one." And but a couple of days after that, I started predicting where there'd be trail magic, and I got it right a couple of times.
Really?
So everybody then started calling me the Oracle. And then I had people coming to me and saying, "You're the Oracle." It was like, "Yes." And it was like, "Okay, can you tell me what's going to happen?" I was like, "No, my name's Celtic. I don't know this Oracle guy." It's like, nothing to do with me. So after that, it was just, no, Celtic.
Celtic.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Now, where are you from?
I'm from Scotland.
Okay.
Born in Glasgow. I lived up in close to Fort William, Ben Nevis. But I've moved around a lot. My dad was in the forces. Then I was in the forces. The last place that I actually had a house was in North Wales. But at the moment, I'm kind of homeless again.
Okay.
But
Well.
yeah, back to Scotland.
Yeah. As someone who was able to just pick up and go across state lines, no problem at all for me. What is the process of getting a visa, or what do you have to do in order to?
I applied for a visa, and obviously hiking the Appalachian Trail is going to take a bit more than 3 months, which is the time allowance for me to come into the country without an extension. With an extension, you have to you apply for it. It will take about 6 months to get. So you go down, they interview you, they ask if you know anybody in America who can vouch for you. Actually check that you are coming to do what you say you're doing.
Yeah.
But then the time they issued the visa to me, it was far too late to do the AT. The good thing is the visa runs for 1 year from the date of issue. So at any time during that year, I can come back into America and stay for 6 months.
Gotcha.
So they issued it to me in sort of August time, and I came into America in March.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so it's not that it has to be up in a year. You can come as long as you come over. You have the 6 months.
As long as you've got you've got 1 year to use it, and once the 6 months starts running from the day that you land. So,
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was like, man, wait, it's September. Oh man, I'm gonna call Homeland Security. No, I was kidding. What was now? What's the problem? So you land, and then do you go to Atlanta?
I went to Atlanta,
Okay.
and of course, when you fill in the form on the plane, it says, where are you staying? And I thought, well, I'm staying on the Appalachian Trail, so I left it blank. So they pulled me out and pulled me over for further inquiries.
Yes.
And I met the team. They're doing the job. They're doing a very good job.
No rubber gloves involved.
They were very interested in the AT. I mentioned that I had some stuff on the internet, and they looked that up, and then it was like, oh yeah, well, mention us, say something nice about us on your blog. And I stamp my pass, and that was it. And you come.
And then you went to a hostel or something like that and got ready.
I went to a Motel 6, and then from there phoned around, got a shuttle driver, and went straight out to the trail on the 21st. So
didn't do the approach trail.
I had a look at it, and then I thought, no, I'll go around to the car park behind. I'm not doing that.
I did the same thing. Everybody says you didn't do the approach trail. I'm like,
no.
You're asking me if I went on a backpacking trip before I went on the longest backpacking trip of my life?
Yeah. No, I looked at that waterfall, and the shuttle driver said, yeah, you go straight up that. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not. We'll go around to the car park, and I'll go straight from there.
Yeah. Now, had you been to the States before, or?
No, I've never been let loose in the United States before.
Okay.
No.
Okay. What was your first impression? I know it's probably, I can only imagine what the mountains of Georgia are like to someone's first impression of the United States. What was your first impression?
Trees. Lots of trees.
Yeah.
I must admit, having read the books, having looked at videos, I got onto the trail, I'm wandering along, and I'm thinking, yep, there is a lot of trees. You got a forest here big in my country.
Yeah.
The next thing I thought was, where's the bears? The place ought to be overrun with bears, but it was first impression. It was like, yes, this is great. It's certainly, the main thing was the size of the forest.
Yeah.
It was just went on forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at that point, I had no idea how far it was actually going to go.
Yeah,
it goes all the way. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was one of my, granted, I grew up in North Carolina, but I was not a huge backpacker before I left. I didn't do a ton, and I'm like you, I read a couple of books, but, it's like, well, it's got whatever it is, it's going to be what it is.
Yeah.
And for me, the biggest, I remember the first 3 days, my biggest thrill was I don't have to turn around. I don't have to go back to the car. I don't have to see this again. Not that I don't want to see it again, but, it's like I don't have to see this the other direction and redo it. And because that's what I was used to, is like day hikes and that kind of thing. And just like, all right, back to the car. But what was one of the most difficult nights you had? Or difficult days, I guess, in general.
The most difficult day, funny enough, Georgia. Temperature dropped to 15 Fahrenheit. It was snowing. It was cold, wet, and time to put up the tent because I was I was nowhere near a shelter. And it was just, that's it, put the tent up. Hunted around, found a spring, got the tent up, and filled all my water bottles, got into my sleeping bag, went to sleep. Got up the next morning and my water bottles were frozen, my boots were frozen, I was frozen. It was get out, put my gloves on, drop the tent, put my gloves back on, wait until I warmed up, take them off, pack something away, put my gloves back on, warm up. And it took me about an hour to get packed up and moving. And then moving was the only thing I could do because it was the only way I could stay warm.
Yeah.
And then come the afternoon, the sun came out, I got sunburned. And it was like, my God, how can you have days like this? Make your mind up. Be cold or be hot.
People might forget you guys were out there at the beginning of that, or I guess in the middle or the end of the polar vortex. So you guys had, I just remember back in March, because I started March 7th in 98, and I had that day on my third day out where it was can't feel my hands, like you said, take the gloves off, do something for 1 minute, put them back on, get back in your bag for a second, or do whatever you can. But I can only imagine the polar vortex. And I don't know if you've paid attention to the weather now, but it's already snowing in a few places in the United States.
Once we were up in Maine, that was when we were starting to look and say, right, it's autumn, the weather's changing, it's going to snow in the next couple. We just got to be on Katahdin on a bright sunny day, and if it's not, can we wait and wait for a better day? Some people did. They got to Katahdin, they summited, but there was no photograph, there was clouds, no view, and they camped out and waited and came back up 2-3 days after. They summited again just so they could get a better photograph.
Oh, wow. Now, what day did you finish?
I finished on the 4th of September. Summited then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that the picture with everybody with champagne?
Yes.
Was that you? Okay.
We were.
That is an epic photo.
We had some champagne and a couple of people packed up some beer, and we sat up there for a good 2 hours. And
that's the one, the spraying of the champagne. Yes. Yeah, that is an epic photo. That's on Appalachian Trail sites where I saw it. I think it was Instagram photos of the week or whatever.
Because I knew it'd been taken. Yeah. I was sat next to the guy who mostly got saturated. But I didn't know they'd loaded it up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's great. It is great. Yeah, you have to check it out. What have been some of the most rewarding experiences? Maybe not like a view or something like that, but like maybe more like with the personal end of things, the people you met.
Most rewarding. I think when I realised that as bad as some days were, I'd been hiking for about 6 weeks, and it suddenly dawned on me that as bad as some things had been, as cold as I'd been, as hot as I'd been, and as steep as some things, it never ever crossed my mind to get off the trail. There were some days where I woke up and I didn't want to walk, but there was never a day where I woke up and thought, I don't want to be here at all. And the day that I realised that, it was like, yeah, this is going to happen. I think as well, although I knew that I was going to hike the trail, that was never going to be a problem, there got to a point in, I think as we were crossing into Vermont, where it just suddenly struck me, it's like, yeah, this is going to happen. It's going to happen very soon now.
Yeah.
And that was like, yes, you know.
And then you start walking on eggshells, like, don't let anything happen between. Because
yes.
I had a day where, I've talked about it before on here, where it was about, I went through like the 7 stages of loss, you know, whatever those levels are, in about 30 minutes of like, why am I doing this? What the heck happened? What am I doing? No, I can do it out. And then it, all in 30 minutes, it just kind of had that. Like, I'm like you. I didn't wake up like, like I don't need to be out here. Because I think once that happens, you're off.
Yeah.
You know, once you get that in your mind, you're gone.
I was surprised that there were people I came across. They got to the halfway point, and they've got the display there.
Mm-hmm.
You are now halfway. And at that point, they were like, well, that's it, I'm off. And they got off the trail. And it seemed to me, it was like, well, you're in the home stretch. You've done
just
half.
step over.
Yeah. But that was, it seemed that they got to that point, and it was just like, yes, I've been here for 2 months, 3 months. Yeah. That's it, I'm done. And they got off.
What were your impressions of Americans on the trail like?
Americans on the trail?
Yeah, just in general, just Americans on the...
In general?
Well, however general you want to be.
I came to America, and it was like, I'm going to come to America, and I'm going to get off out of the city into the country, and I'm going to hike. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the impression that Americans don't know geography and are pretty egocentric, and so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get in there. I'm not going to mind. I'm going to hike.
Uh-huh.
And before long, I was talking to somebody, and they were saying, well, when you finished, what are you doing? Are you staying? And it was like, well, no, I've got daughters at home.
Mm-hmm.
And if I become an illegal immigrant, they'll kill me. Never mind Homeland Security, they'll come after me. But I think, at some point I did think this is America, and Americans are totally unlike they're represented. And if I could stay, I would.
Really?
Yeah, I would.
What changed your mind, do you think? I mean, just the people, or...
People.
Yeah.
When you come down off a trail, and we came down out the Smokies, we hit the road, and there was 4 ladies from the off-the-grid hiking group. And they had their cars set up, they had hot coffee, they had, you name it, they had it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something, trail magic. We never get that in Britain. If I mention trail magic, they're going to be thinking, well, why? You could set up a van there and sell stuff. But in America, it's like, no, these people are doing something, we're going to do something back.
Yeah.
And you just don't get that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, you said you were good at predicting. I need some examples of predicting trail magic.
Okay. We woke up one morning. We were all up in a shelter. There was about 8-10 people. And I don't know why. As I was packing, somebody mentioned something that was sort of pretty depressing comment. And I said, well, you better pack up and get moving. Otherwise, you're going to miss the trail magic down at the next crossing. And I don't know why I said it, but everybody then would start saying, well, you can't say things like that. It gets people's hopes up. And I said, well, I'm going to be there. I'm getting my trail magic. And I knew that it would be there. So we packed up, we headed out, and there was a guy who'd gone on ahead of us, and he'd stopped, and he was put his pack down, having a break. And as I got to him, I said to him, if you don't hurry up, you're not going to get the trail magic. And carried on down. a lot of people went ahead of me because by this point I was thinking, my God, what have you said? And we came across a big metal box with crosses cut into the top and protection against the bears. And I opened the box up, and inside it was a bottle of water, and everything else had been eaten or collected or gone. And I thought, well, it is trail magic.
And if we got here earlier.
If we'd have been here earlier, yeah. And I said to there was a guy caught up with me, and I said to him, well, it's not exactly what I was thinking of. And, so we closed it up and followed it down and hit the car park and the road. And there was a big crowd there and a car with the boot open. They'd come to refill the steel box. And when they got there, they thought, well, we're early enough. We'll just open the boot and let them have it from here. So,
oh, wow.
And at that point, they were like, yeah, you're the oracle. So after that, every now and then, when I did get the feeling there was going to be trail magic, I'd say, I think at the next road crossing, there's going to be trail magic.
What was the great... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The best one, coming out of... after Fontana Dam, we came down to a road, and there was about 5 of us sat on the rocks. There was nothing, no trail magic in it. And as a car came driving up, I said to them, oh, this must be the trail magic I ordered. And the car drove by, and I was like, right. And, they forgot to load up. And 2 minutes later, they came back up towards us, stopped, and wound the window down. It was 3 ladies. It was like, you Thru-Hikers? And we were like, yeah. Great. We've got everything in the boot. We've got this. And they just opened up and gave, it was... But at that point, it was like, yeah, this is getting a bit spooky. But
that same place, I actually was harassed by the police. That exact same spot. There, a bank robber had hopped on the trail in Georgia.
Yeah.
He had robbed a bank and then gone into a Kmart and just bought everything real cheap and got on the trail. And that was also the same time, I don't know if you remember back in 1996, the Atlanta bombing that happened at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Eric Rudolph was out, and so when I went through the Smokies, there were no trail registers because they were looking for any clues.
Yeah.
And the idiot, the guy who was the bank robber's trail name, Richie Rich.
Well,
he got caught. I think he was actually shot in California after he got off. But my favorite story about that was he'd finally gotten comfortable with a few guys that he'd been hiking with, and he just said, well, you guys know why I always pay for the hotel rooms. And they're like, no. And he opened up his backpack and it was full of cash. And he's like, I rob banks. And they're like, oh. And he said, next time we get to a town, you guys go in and pretend like you're going to open up an account. I'll come in and rob it and show you how easy it is. They're like, okay. They all woke up the next morning and gone.
Trail magic takes on a whole new perspective of that. On the job training. It's like, no.
Did you have any interesting animal encounters?
The bears.
Okay.
I had been waiting to see a bear, and they just never turned up, and I waited and waited. And beautiful sunny day, I'm chatting to a guy in the Smokies, and he's a day hiker. And I chatted, I went on ahead about 30, 40 feet, and there's this large black creature sort of running towards me, but then turned around and ran back the other way. And I thought, oh, right. And I shouted back to the guy, hey, your Labrador's down here. And as I said, it was like, no, it's a bear. It was like, but the bear, he took off onto the side about 40, 50 feet away and stopped and had a look back. So, I tried to get some photographs, but I'm not very well focused and that. But that was my first bear encounter.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to it for so long, and then when I finally did see it, I didn't see it for what it was.
Yeah.
A bear. But that was fun.
Did you see more after that?
I saw a few more, a mother and 3 cubs.
Oh, wow.
And they were a bit close. They were about 30 feet away, and they were just standing on a tree looking over. And it was they were as interested in me as I was in them.
Yeah.
And then much, much further north, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I was going up the trail with my head down and late in the day and tired. And I looked up and there was a bear coming towards me. It was almost as if the bear looked up at the same moment as me. And I thought, bear. And the bear was like, not bear. And took off down the side. But No photograph that time.
Yeah, I found them to kind of almost be like when you're looking for a 4-leaf clover, and you focus your eyes like, oh God, they're everywhere.
Yeah. Similar thing. I saw movement in the ferns as I was going along, and a slight colour of black. I never actually saw the bear, but it was so small.
Yeah.
It was shorter than the ferns. And the same thing crossed my mind. As soon as I saw it, it's like, oh God, where's Mother?
Yeah.
I never did see her, but stood still for like 2 minutes, like, okay, you're not right, get going, move, get out of here.
Oh, I used to work in New Mexico, and it was 215 square miles of backcountry. There was nothing at all. It was used to belong to this oil magnate that donated it. And my job one summer was to train people who were going to take people out into the woods for 4 to 20 days. And so we had basically closed our books up talking about what to do when a bear is around and that kind of thing, like make noise, make yourself look big and all that stuff. And I'm talking, and it was almost like as if you were to like go, bear. And there was this one kid in the group who's like, bear. I'm like, what? He's like, bear. And about 30 feet behind us was the biggest bear I've ever... I mean, it was probably like to my shoulder. It was huge. Yeah. And I probably had never seen a human. It was just like, and we stood there, and we all jumped up, grabbed pots and pans, banged them, and it just sat there like, what are you doing? And just looked at us and was like, well, and look big. At that point in time, I had lost my audience. It was like, so what else are you going to tell us that's a lie? Needless to say, we changed camps. But yeah, there's just that moment where you're like, you're seeing something you've never seen before, almost like seeing a broken bone or something. You're like, this doesn't make sense. And it's like, oh, that is, that's a magnificent creature.
As you said about making sense, my first rattlesnake.
Yeah.
I'd been looking forward to a rattlesnake, and I knew what I was going to do and everything. Anyway, I was hiking down by myself and coming up towards a shelter, and I saw a piece of white paper on the floor. And past it, about 10 foot past, I thought, well, it might be a note, or it might just be something that somebody's dropped. You know. So I turned around and went back to it, and it was a note. Picked it up, and it said, beware, rattlesnake, and a little arrow. So I looked back, and there's this rattlesnake, which I'd passed twice. And it just lay there, and I kind of looked at it and thought, oh yes, rattlesnake. And come on, where's the rattle? Where's the... and it just lay there, and I'm thinking, I've come like 7,000 miles. Give me a, is this it? Anyway, I took photographs, and he kind of took interest and stuck his tongue out and tasted the air, and went back to sleeping. It was only after I was looking at the photographs and thinking, wow, it is a rattlesnake. But I think he'd just eaten, because there was a large bulge halfway down him, and he was like, he was looking and thinking, hiker, ignore him.
Yeah, seen you.
But my only rattlesnake, I only saw the one. He never even rattled at me.
Yeah, that first time you hear a rattle, so you didn't hear it?
I never even heard a rattle. I mean, a lot of people told me, because I'm slightly deaf.
Okay.
And they were saying to me, don't worry about it, because when it rattles, you'll know.
Yeah.
Well, I never heard it. It never even did. It was like, oh... I was disappointed for about 10 minutes, and then it was like, well, he's hungry. He's like, he's just eaten. He's like, you know the feeling. So just sit there and ignore the world.
Just going to break in here real quick and do something we like to do each week. Congratulations to this week's Appalachian Trail Thru-Hikers. Bear Bait finished on July 23rd. Starshine and Youngbeard finished on September 5th. Tie-dyed Bandit with a badass Katahdin Summit photo finished on August 30th. Bear Bag finished on August 29th. The Lorax finished on September 5th. Okay, here's a big one. Timon, Slim, Lotus, A-Bear, Toto, and Ramblin' Rose all finished on August 28th. Vista finished on August 26th. Buzz finished on August 20th. Dependable Pete finished on August 29th. Cape finished August 18th. Scuffy finished on August 29th. Lions, August 29th. Scout, August 27th. Sasquatch, August 26th. Part of the Badass Champagne Celebration photo series, Digger finished on August 29th. Frodo finished September 1st. Slim on August 28th. Oops finish on August 29th. Past guest Christo the Lion finished on August 21st. Congratulations, Christo. Yo Teach finished July 21st. Cathro and Lightfoot, August 28th. Hesse Chast and Nepsis, July 21st. Dog, August 25th. Sparky finished August 15th. Jukebox, August 15th. Monty, August 15th. Past guest Zach Squatch, August 18th. Congratulations, Zach Squatch. Sprout, July 19th. Lady Moose, August 9th. Cornwall, August 15th. Gandalf finished August 9th. And Nemo finished August 19th. Spice Kitten Coconuts, August 15th. Oh, and Coconut proposed to Spice Kit at the summit. Congratulations. Hey, if you'd like to have us read off your name or just like to have it on the Appalachian Trail site, you can just email it to thegoodbadger@gmail.com to send your photo and all your pertinent info. Also, just go ahead and go to AppalachianTrails.com, click on the Thru-Hiker registry, and that way you can keep in touch with all your friends, because, you know, who knows what your real name is in the real world anyway. Okay, back to the show. Oh, man. What was, did you have a favorite hostel along the way?
Favorite hostel? I stayed at the Doyle.
How was that?
I wouldn't stay there again. When I did say, I sent text messages to people saying, "Oh, I'm stopping at the Doyle, the famous Doyle," and they were sending me messages back saying, "Yes, fire hazard, get out."
Why?
Now, what are you doing? But I did stay there, and that was fun. Took the photographs, and yeah, it was an experience.
Are you a beer drinker?
I am a beer drinker.
So that's a great place. We did the 26 mile from Boiling Springs to there, like in the whole one day thing. And so when we got in, somehow word had gotten ahead that we were doing it.
Yeah. And
so when we got there, it was like, hey, they did it. And so we got there at the very end of happy hour.
Oh.
And so it was like, 25-cent draft, or something like that. So it was like, oh, all right, we'll have a good time. And so at that point in time, I didn't care about where I fell asleep that night.
That's the thing. I mean, it's clean. They've got good beer, and they're not bad cooks. Yeah.
I didn't have any food there. I think the kitchen was closed when we got in.
Yeah.
But
the only other one that was really outstanding, Standing Bear.
I didn't stay there. Yeah.
You get there, they take you around, they show you everything. It's a bit rough and ready, and then they give you a postcard and a pen and say, help yourself at the shop, write down whatever you've had, and we'll settle up in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, yeah, great. Yeah, I like this.
I think I reached it in the middle of my day. Because that's in the middle of the road. That's just right after the roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we were basically camped at the bottom of the roller coaster and did it. So it was kind of in the middle of our day.
Yeah.
3/4 of the way through the day. And I was like, and I think we had just, I know what it was. I had to get somewhere. We were meeting my family. So it was kind of like, all right, just keep on rolling through. But do you have a favorite American food that you've found since you've been here?
Favorite American food? Ice cream. I must admit, when I got here, I didn't eat much ice cream. Then I started on a butter pecan pie.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got to Pine Grove Furnace.
Yeah.
We did the half-gallon challenge.
What'd you choose?
I was a chicken. I chose vanilla because it was a choice with vanilla or chocolate chip or cookie dough, I think. And I thought, well, if the vanilla comes back up, there's less bits to snag in my throat. But so I had the vanilla. Then they've got a new place now up at Millinocket, the Appalachian Trail Hostel and Cafe. So once you've done Katahdin, you can come down. They run a shuttle. You can go down there. Now they've got their own ice cream challenge.
Oh, really?
I think it's called the Katahdin Special.
Okay.
I went around there for breakfast, and there was another hiker in already eating one, and it was like, yeah, I'll have one of those. And what it is the guy who runs the place, owns the place, he's a thru-hiker, and he thought, okay, when you get the end of the hike, what do you need? You need something that's going to remind you of the trail. So chopped up a Snickers and throw that in a bowl, and M&Ms, throw that in, and donuts, throw that in, and then 14 scoops of ice cream, one for each state, and then cream on the top of that, and then a cherry on the top. And if you can eat it, you get to sign the wall, and you get a free T-shirt, and you get to keep your bowl.
Oh, wow. So you got all that?
I got it. It took me an hour and 2 minutes to eat this ice cream, and I must admit, the last 5 or 10 minutes I was sat there thinking, like, I'm not quite sure I can do this. But no, if I get a free T-shirt, I'll do anything.
Yeah. Is there a food you miss from home?
Two things. You can't get Mars bars here. Mars bars kind of like a Snickers, but without the peanuts.
Right.
Much, much better. Maybe it's because I've eaten too many Snickers, though. But the other one, fish and chips.
Yeah.
You can't get decent fish and chips. Actually, saying that as well, my big mistake, I went into a restaurant and it was like, what would you like? And I said, I'll have fish and chips.
Oh.
And in America, chips are what we call crisps. So when they served it up, I was thinking, like, what the hell is this? So, and then they explained to me that actually, no, what you wanted was home fries.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's well. So next time I said, I want fish and home fries. But no, Americans don't get the idea of big fat chips.
No.
Yeah. So no, I'll have that when I get back.
So are you a big photographer? You have a DSLR in your hands?
I've got a DSLR.
Did you bring it with? Did you hike with it?
I hiked with it.
Oh wow!
When I was coming up to the Wallace, I passed a guy who sort of said hi. Just a guy sort of wandering through, not a hiker. And he said, "All right, are you hiking the trail?" And I was like, "Yes." "Are you going to Maine?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Yeah, not with that, you're not." And I had a 35mm camera. But yeah, 35mm camera, 18-250 lens. I carried it all the way.
Wow.
There was a couple
on a
of
chest
times,
pack or something like that, or in your pack?
I carried it mostly in my pack.
Okay.
If it was a nice day, I'd sling it on my shoulder and sort of hope for something to take. There was a couple of times where I thought, well, maybe it's too heavy, but I took a photograph, and a guy took the same photograph at the same time, and we compared. And yeah, you can't beat a DSLR.
Yeah.
It's the depth and the colour. So after that, I thought, no, I'm carrying this. But I have heard about, my pack weight was about 40 pounds all in.
Yeah.
The one time I sat it down, I emptied it out, collected a load of things I didn't want or didn't need, posted them out, came out the post office, went straight into a bookshop and bought about £2 of books, which is what the weight I'd saved. I mean,
yeah.
You do. I think you get a pack weight and you kind of stick around that. Even if you drop stuff, you'll end up stacking other bits in, and that's what I did. I carried my camera instead of other things.
Yeah, I found I did the same thing. Stuff I got rid of, I went up with other. What was your favorite book you read while you're on the trail?
Favorite book? I've been reading Civil Disobedience, Walden, Emerson. I think my favourite one is Pride and Prejudice.
Really?
I had that on iPod, and I listened to it, and it got to the point this iPod didn't survive too well, and it started playing the chapters in random order, and I stuck with it, and I kept it through, and I'm gonna have to trade that one in now.
So I was in my early 20s when I hiked, so it was On the Road by Jack Kerouac.
Yeah.
Oh God, I think I read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah.
So that was mine, and a few Kurt Vonnegut novels and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as I was listening to yours, I was like, what would have my favorite one have been? And I don't know. I think they all were really. I don't know. There's some books where occasionally I'll think of something that I read, and I'll think of the place where I was. And I remember finishing On the Road in somebody's backyard. And it was one of those where like, oh, you can camp in this person's backyard.
Yeah.
and I never saw the person. You know, it was like, we don't know who they are. And it was one of those, you're like, I hope this is the right house.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Did you, now were you a purist? Were you a blue blazer or?
No, I was a purist.
Purist.
There was at one point, I didn't follow the white blazers. It was coming out of, coming out of some town, I can't remember, but you cross over the river, Warm Springs, I think it was, or Hot Springs.
Hot Springs, North Carolina.
North Carolina. Yeah. You nice walk along the river, and then you start going up, and you go up, and finally I got to the top. Yes, this is the AT, so I'd lost the trail, and I thought, well, it's the AT, so if there's an up, you're going up it.
Yeah.
So I went up and over the top, which, as I was going over, it was like, yeah, I'm definitely not on the trail, but it's got to go over. So I kept going over and finally found the trail on the other side. And that's when I realised that where I'd left it and gone up, it actually switched left and went round. So it was about the only place where it didn't go over a peak, and I went over it anyway. So it was like, then once I'd done that, I did look at it and think, should I go back?
Oh, yeah.
And walk around the white blazers I missed. But in the end, I thought, well, I've actually done more than was required, so I'm excused.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
I'm not doing this again. I was like, and I just carried on up. The one thing I did do, and early days I was thinking, I'm not going to slack pack. Yeah. We got to the Bigelows, and I got the opportunity to slack pack.
It's wonderful.
And it was like, yeah, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
I'm injured. Any excuse will do. I'm going to slack pack. As it turned out, I was so glad that I did. It was, you get so used to carrying your pack. When you don't have it, is when you realise how fit you've become and how easy it is to walk without it. So, yeah.
Do you have a favourite state?
Favourite state? Maine. I liked Maine.
Yeah.
Georgia, I'd like to say, but it was so cold. But Tennessee, North Carolina, I liked.
Yeah.
I liked Pennsylvania, but I'm in the middle states. Maryland, I don't even remember going through Maryland. It was, the 4 states area. Just breezed straight through. I didn't know what state I was in, and it didn't matter. I mean, but I think my favourite states, Maine and any of the southern states, really.
Yeah,
I like those.
I love Maine. I really enjoyed New York. I was amazed at how beautiful it was.
New York was wet. I crossed into New York and it started raining, and it rained for the next 2.5 days, with the occasional thunderstorm thrown in. So I spent my time swimming.
That was Virginia for me.
Yeah.
that was actually the month of April. It rained 23 days in April for me, and it was just... Yeah. You just have that moment. Those are the moments where you're like, "What the hell am I doing?"
Yeah. It was. That was the 2.5 days. I got down, and that was it. We looked around. It was by that time there was a collection of us, and it was like, let's just find a hotel, get in, get dried, get laundry done, get a wash, and then see about getting back out.
Feel like a human again, and then
it was. I've never had. Rain for 2.5 days.
Yeah.
And that was depressing. But
what was your what was your hiking experience before the Appalachian Trail?
Right, before the Appalachian Trail, I've hiked in all over Scotland. I did John O'Groats down to Glasgow. I've hiked across the country. I've gone up to Cape Wrathen, came down to pretty much back down to Glasgow. Most of the Highlands of Scotland. I haven't done much of the border between Scotland and England because it's kind of flat. Fair bit in Derbyshire, a couple in the lakes, Wales, some Middle East, say Sahara, the Negev, Sinai Desert.
Wow.
And I've been over into Belize and Honduras.
Oh, really?
That was good while ago with the British Army.
Oh, okay.
So, fair bit.
Well, it wasn't as leisurely.
Yeah, they were paying us to be there, and they expected to get their money's worth.
Now you raised money on this hike.
Yeah.
How did you go about doing that? I know that you were kind of soliciting, trying to find people in the beginning. Who did you wind up with, and how did it go?
Well, I had a look at the charities in the UK and ended up picking a charity called Cancer Research Wales, because the chairman of the charity is actually a working cancer specialist. I don't know if the charity actually pays him. I think he does it as part of his work as a researcher and a doctor. They spend a lot of money, and they are one of the leading researchers, and they're researching generally cancer and no specific area. And with America, I thought, well, I ought to do something as well. I'm unlikely to do trail magic. I'm not going to be doing trail maintenance. I ought to give something back. So I then sort of asked around and was told about a couple of them, but the one I stuck with was Cure Search for Children's Cancer, and they do a thing called the Ultimate Hike. Now, what they mean by the Ultimate Hike is a 25-mile hike done in one day.
Right.
And I contacted them and said, I'm coming over, I'm hiking the Appalachian Trail, and, would you be interested? And, they were very interested. Now, I've got a page there. If you Google Gordan Biggerstaff, which is my name, then the charity is about the fourth one down in the list. The first 4 or 5 names on there is me.
Okay.
And I think the charity is about the 4th or 5th one down. Now, if you do feel like donating and you're in the UK, feel free to donate to either one. But one's in America. They do research for children's cancers, specifically children's cancers, and the English one, based in Wales, they're just general cancer research. Now, I plumped for cancer because once I'd started looking at things, it was like something like 35 children a day in America are diagnosed with cancer, and of those, 4 of them are going to die. The rest will get a cure, but out of that, 5 of them are going to have long-term permanent injuries or damage. So it's like, well, I'm pretty sure if the money that comes in, it gets spent on researching, and with Cure Search, they're targeting a particular problem. They'll have a child with a cancer, and they'll say, right, this is the problem. They can then go back to the doctors, the researchers, and say, right, this is the problem. Give us a solution, and they work on that. Now, if they come up with a cure, they're not going to keep it to themselves. They're going to share it with everybody anyway.
Right.
Same with the Cancer Research Wales. They're, something this big, you don't sit on it and run a patent and keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Cure for cancer, that's what we need.
What'd you wind up doing instead of going the trail days? Just keep on trekking on?
I hit trail days on the Sunday, around about lunchtime, and it was like,
Oh,
so
man.
I went down, had a look at the bands playing, and took a wander around, and it was like, yeah, okay, I head back up.
Yeah.
But took a couple of days off, and then it was coming up for...
So you hiked into Damascus on Sunday, or
Yeah.
okay.
Well, I'd
I thought you
already
were
gone
past
past.
it.
I'd gone to Waynesborough and then hitchhiked back down. I
gotcha.
expected... I kind of... it gives you an idea of the perspective. I kind of looked at it and thought, I'm about 100 miles away. Actually, I wasn't. I was about 450 miles away, but it didn't feel like that. I mean, so by the time I got down, it was into the Sunday. Place was wrapping up, really, and I thought, well, take a day off and then head back up. But it was coming up for the weekend where you remember veterans.
Yeah.
And I'd bought a hat. I have this thing for losing hats, and I'd lost it. So I bought one from the veteran stand, and it says Army veteran on it. And I thought, right, well, if I'm wearing this and standing at the side of the road, it's coming up for Memorial Weekend, I'll get a lift.
Certainly.
Yeah. Well, I did. It took me 4 days to get from Waynesborough down to Damascus. So I missed most of the trail days. It took me 2 days to get back up to Waynesborough, and purely because of this hat.
Wow.
So and I'm not cheating. I was in the army. I am a veteran, but just not the American Army.
Right.
So.
Oh man, yeah. Because by the time Sunday rolled around, I didn't have a voice anymore.
Yeah.
We had the prom the night before, and
oh God, yeah.
Oh gosh.
As it turned out, I got down there. I did the normal hiker thing. I got down. I went to the Dollar General, bought my Coke, bought a sandwich, sat on the pavement outside, and sun was shining. It was really nice. And 2 Japanese girls came by, nice camera, and then they wandered past again, and I was like, okay. And then they wandered back down and said, "Can we take your picture?" Like, yes, okay. "You're through hiking?" Like, yes. "We're from Japanese television. Can we interview you?"
Yes.
I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah.
So how'd that go? Because they came to the prom, and we were like, "What's this?" And they just had cameras all around, and they walked through, and they were there for 5 minutes, and then they were gone. But
they're planning a program they're going to be releasing in Japan, and they've been over filming.
Wow.
So I'm thinking now is like, I'm glad I went this year, because next year, Bill Bryson film coming out.
Yeah. Reese
Lost
Witherspoon.
and Found.
Wild. The one
on
about
the
PCT.
Appalachian. You're going to get inundated next year.
Yeah.
The only good thing is wait until everybody's gone. Like beginning of April, go down and hike from Georgia, from Springer up to Wallacea. You're going to be picking up lots of gear.
Yeah.
And the same PCT, there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of women will go out there to find themselves on the back of this film.
Yeah.
So, you're going to have a busy year next year, so I'm glad I did it this year.
Did you listen to Wild or read it?
I've read Wild.
I haven't read it yet.
She's up front right away. She went on the PCT to sort herself out and to get away from her surroundings. And she had no intention of hiking the whole trail. She was going to do 800 miles or 1,000 miles. That was it. And that's what she did. Yeah.
Okay.
She was,
I think I'm going to listen to it.
Yeah.
Because like you, I get to listen to it at work.
Yeah. I mean, she's a good writer. Yeah.
Good. So, what's the plan now? What you finished up? We're in Tennessee, hanging out.
I'm going to head back over and see my daughters. Kind of miss them. I've got one daughter. At the moment, she's in Greece.
Oh.
And my other daughter is in Croatia, and a daughter in England. So
okay.
I've got to go and visit them all. I haven't seen them for 6 months.
It's going to do some more traveling.
Yeah. But the one thing that really struck me, I mean, especially being on the Appalachian Trail, was like, how come we don't have one of these in Britain? I mean, there's trails there, and you could kind of link them together. But why haven't we got one continuous trail going through England, through Wales, back into England, up through Scotland, and up to like Cape Wrath, which is the most northerly point, and it's the emptiest point. I mean, if we had one continuous path, that I think that would, I mean, economic benefits to the towns we pass through. I mean, we could have. It won't be the length of the Appalachian Trail. It won't be quite as wilderness.
Right.
But there's no reason why we don't have a trail. So I'm gonna be looking at bringing some students, university students, over here next year.
Oh wow!
So that they can do some trail maintenance and find out about the Appalachian Trail, see a bit of a slice of America.
Yeah.
With the idea that once we're back over, we can start campaigning. I've got a group of people who actually know how to. Well, have got an idea how to build a trail. Have got an idea of what the Appalachian Trail is, and we can start building one in Britain.
Absolutely.
Run it through England, Scotland, and Wales.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
We actually, where I graduated from, they actually have a agreement, like an exchange. Like we have a ton of Irish students that come to our school, and it's kind of an exchange thing where our students go over to Ireland for their classes. Because I guess, because I graduated with a Parks and Recreation degree.
Right.
And so I guess there's not a big Parks and Rec over there. Yeah. And so students that are interested in that kind of thing come over to our school and do that.
They've only just started talking about getting degrees in outdoor pursuits. Mostly, I mean, I know full well when I get back, I can go to pretty much any outfitter and say, I've just hiked the AT, can I have a job? And they'll say yes.
Oh, yeah. Is that your plan?
Well,
Or are you going to go back to your old job? Or
I'm going to go back to my old job for the moment. I've got a teaching qualification, which I haven't used for a good 20-odd years.
Yeah.
And I've got to go and check that that's still current. But what I think I'd really like to do is go back and start teaching English literature instead.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, English literature, American writers.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that, so check that out. But I want to get this trail building idea going. I want to see about getting funding from the European Union, from the English government.
Yeah.
Also, we've got the vote next Wednesday. No, next Thursday.
I was going to ask, are you going to be back in time?
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be a yes vote.
Yeah.
In which case, I've got a country to help build.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that'd be very interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Well, I'll ask you one last question, Gordan, and then we'll get going here. If someone were to ask you for advice on hiking the Appalachian Trail,
yeah,
what do you think would be the number one? What would be your number one piece of advice?
Number one piece of advice. Have 2 sets of gear. I started with a 7-pound Arctic sleeping bag down, and I never needed it. I had to carry it up to Damascus before I could swap it out. Now I shouldn't have bothered with that at all. It was way too heavy. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of nights where it was down below freezing, but there were only a couple of nights, and I was carrying this thing every day. So, look at your gear, go out, do some practice hikes, and pare it down. I mean, in the end, I had a Gore-Tex waterproof, water-resistant jacket. Mm-hmm. I threw it in a hiker box.
Yeah.
I threw the waterproof trousers. They went in a hiker box. I ended up wearing a poncho because it's 5 times lighter, mm-hmm. and it does the job just as well.
Yeah.
Now I've always been one of these guys who, like, you hit the trail, you go with 3 sets. 3 sets of t-shirts, 3 trousers, 3 socks.
It's the military end of things.
Yeah, and this, no, everything went. I had my stuff that I hiked in and dry clothes for putting on. And if the stuff I was hiking in got wet, you put it on wet. It's going to dry out very. Really, really look at all your gear, and if you can get rid of it. If you can lighten it. Yeah, you do not. I mean, I was carrying 40 pounds. There were people out there carrying 20 pounds, and they were just as comfortable. Yeah. So, even when I go back, I'm going to be looking at my gear and thinking, okay, what's going? What am I getting rid of?
What about mentally? What's a good mental piece of advice you have for
Mental
folks?
Piece of advice. If you're thinking, I'm going to try and hike the Appalachian Trail, then don't. If you're thinking, I am going to hike the Appalachian Trail, then you go for it, because you can't think you're going to half do it. You either do it or you don't. So be damn sure before you go that you're going to do it. You're going to get days where you're cold, you're wet, you don't want to eat what you've got. That's fine.
Yeah.
Feel that. But you get to the point, if you're thinking before you go that you might not be able to do it, then don't do it. Go and do something else, because the Appalachian Trail, it's just going to suck you in, and you're going to be there. There was a guy who summited the same day as I did. He went to Springer to do a 2-week hike, and that was his plan. And then he extended it. He was just going to do another 2 weeks, and then he was going to go home. And then before he knows it, he's standing on Katahdin, because he's done a whole lot. Because before you know it, and that is the way it's got to be. This is what you're going to do this year. You're going to hike the Appalachian Trail, and nothing else. It's going to take you time. So you better make sure before you go that this is what you want to do, and that you're going to do it. Just think, I'm going to do this, and it'll happen.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Gordan.
You're welcome. There's less bits to snag in my throat. Nice cap.